This has been a terrible thing since February 2022, and the United States will have to send its children to war in the same manner that we are sending ours. They will have to fight because we are talking about NATO. God forbid they will die. In the past, there has been fighting between Russia and Ukraine. My question is, how have they maintained it? Well, the United States and the European Union have been providing military help to Ukraine in order to keep the war effort going, but they seem to be quite tired now. We go deep into the shifting dynamics of the war effort's financing in Ukraine. While we delve into today's intriguing subject, we kindly request that you do us a favor before we go. Click the like button and subscribe to POLİTHİNK Sense. Sure, your backing is really appreciated, so let's get down to business. The United States and the European Union have been quite generous in helping Ukraine's war against Russia. NATO in particular has been providing financial aid, soldiers, and weaponry to the Ukrainian armed forces. Instead of focusing on actually winning the conflict, the United States would like to see Ukraine well-positioned for future peace negotiations. The United States is engaged in what Senator Lindsey Graham is describing as the cheapest war the U.S. has ever fought. In exchange, Graham has promised to fight for Ukraine until the death. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy is crooning a victory song, demanding that Russian soldiers vacate all of Ukraine, including Crimea. It would seem that the majority of Ukrainians are siding with Zelenskiy. The rationality surveys show that NATO members are worried about a potential strike on Ukraine landing on their soil. If NATO were to succeed in Ukraine, it would be by a wide margin. Simplify it for me. This is not a backup plan game. Ukraine isn't participating. Dmytro Kuleba, the foreign minister, has said that the goal is to get military aid from the United States in order to manage the situation with Russia. There is no backup plan, but we are positive about our current strategy, KBA said in a recent interview. Okay, listen up. Ukrainian officials saw the help as a gift, while KBA officials view it as an investment. Why? For the simple reason that it involves more than only Ukraine. Protecting NATO and the safety of the American people are paramount. Now here is when things start to get interesting. Ukraine is in danger of running out of money in 2024 unless they get $37 billion in external assistance, which impacts their budget. It was intimated by the U.S. that armaments supply would soon dry up, potentially beginning in January. If this doesn't happen, the Ukrainian military could be unable to fire its vital artillery rounds until summer, thereby ending the battle. On his side, Stoltenberg is tactfully acknowledging that the war has stalled. While he has been urging NATO allies to increase their ammunition stockpiles, the European military industry seems to be disorganized, and funding for the development of new weapons is off course. The West may soon have to make some difficult choices due to a lack of assistance. The Ukrainian Ministry of Finance is thinking about a backup plan that might include cutting expenditure and perhaps creating more money. There is a backup plan that the EU has in place, which involves sovereign guarantees to generate cash for Kosovo. However, there are certain nations who aren't fully on board with this plan, and there is discussion of using Russia's $300 billion in frozen reserves to pay for the war and recover from Ukraine. Although it's an outlandish suggestion, it has the potential to put the onus of blame on Kiev rather than the West. Now we may discuss the holdup. Although the U.S. administration has requested $6.1 billion to aid Ukraine, the necessary funding has not yet been allocated by Congress. A ray of optimism may be emerging despite Republicans' demands for tougher immigration restrictions. However, there is always a but. As U.S. Senator Kristen Sinema implies, they are getting closer to a bipartisan agreement on border security, which might include emergency funding for Israel and Ukraine. There is a Republican majority in the House of Representatives. The House has successfully passed a massive immigration and border security package and is now calling on the Senate to do the same. Ever since the Republicans gained control of the House in January, the fate of aid for Ukraine has been uncertain. Kiev was not included in two of the short-term government's financial packages, which further complicated the issue. At the end of 2023, Ukraine received a $250 million military aid package, the most recent announcement of which came on December 27th. The following is an overview. There will be no more funding for Ukraine's military until a fresh package is approved by the U.S. Congress, as the White House has already confirmed. After Russia launched a major offensive on Ukraine in late December, President Joe Biden stressed the need for Congress to authorize further help immediately. The current government might promptly send weapons to Ukraine by using its presidential drawdown power to seize them from existing U.S. stockpiles. But then what? The fact that Congress has not authorized more funds to fill the gear led them to decide against doing it. As a result of the gap, the last $250 million arms shipment to Ukraine may have been the last act. Because of the budgetary snag, unless Congress approves more financing, there is no silver bullet to restore peace in Ukraine. The Pentagon can do certain things with the money it has, but it won't be enough to provide large amounts of equipment. Here is where things get complicated for Ukraine. Government funding is subject to two impending deadlines, January 19th and February 7th. Before they can even begin drafting the major legislation, government agencies need to have their top-line budget statistics. Republican leaders in the House have threatened a federal shutdown unless they get their way on border policy. Everyone is on edge right now. The OM's letter is causing a stir by stressing that 97% of the Defense Department's budget has already been spent. Additionally, the $4.7 billion allotted for defense assistance was spent by the State Department. The remaining finances are vanishing quickly, according to Yong, and shutting off the supply of U.S. weaponry may severely weaken. Only expect bad news for NATO from Ukraine's involvement in the conflict. During an interview, he said that the conflict in Ukraine may come to a standstill or end entirely by 2024, as reported by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. It's significant because it serves as a warning of potential changes that may be coming soon. Things that happen if the United States doesn't contribute more were also revealed by Young. It's not just about ammunition. It's also about keeping the government functioning and public services paid in Kyiv as Russia continues its assault. And she's raising concerns about other whores. They may give Kyiv some breathing room to prepare for conflict, but what if the United States is demoted? Regarding the signal it sends to other countries and their potential actions in response to the U.S. withdrawal, Young is concerned. On top of that, there are reports indicating that Europe's arms production is so underfunded that Germany could run out of ammunition in less than 2 weeks in the event of a confrontation with Russia. Germany is the world's leading manufacturer of weaponry, as you would expect. The present impasse in the U.S. Congress is just one aspect of the problem. From here on out, Ukraine has greater cause for concern. U.S. military aid to Ukraine is being manipulated. They are planning to change tactics from providing the same amount of aid in 2022 and 2023. Why? The goal they have set for themselves is to assist Ukraine in becoming self-sufficient by strengthening its own military-industrial base. It's the same as arming them with the means to possess weapons, the means to fund, manufacturer, and purchaser. You know, a little dash of independence. The implications are high if Russia emerges victorious from this 22-month-long struggle, as Ukraine's Foreign Minister KBA makes clear. Securing this region and halting those leaders would be expensive for the United States, he says, and the other leaders may learn from Russia's playbook. Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, has stated his desire to join NATO after a victory in Ukraine, although he does not believe this. Anyone arguing otherwise, in KBA's view, is completely mistaken and should be considered for a different position. This is the short explanation of what's happening in the U.S. Ukraine's backstory. Thus, it seems like 2024 will be quite the roller coaster. Both the West's ammunition supply and the conflict in Ukraine may be nearing critical points. Follow us as we watch this chess game progress. If you're interested in global events, particularly those involving the economy and politics, we have some films heading your way.